For nearly 50 years, Town & Country Sports has been the heartbeat of youth sports in North Austin, promoting fair play, sportsmanship, and most importantly, fun. TNC Sports is for kids of all ages, no matter the skill level, and we encourage the whole family to get involved. Right now, registration is open for soccer, flag football, baseball, girls volleyball, softball, lacrosse, and more. Space is limited. Don't wait. Sign up today at tncsports.org. TNC Sports. Come play with us.
That's what it says.
Welcome, Coach, to the Parent Portal Show. Happy that you're with us, and happy that I'm here, and I'm happy that we're live. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that, and we'll just have a great show today, Coach. It's a kind of a cloudy, overcast day out there, but there is a lot going on. There's more content going on today than we have days in the hours. So why don't we just plow through some of this and see if we can have a fun day at it. And we've got a great speaker that's going to be joining us in a little while, Lois Detman, who is just an amazing person here in the Austin, Texas, background in counseling and a teacher, educator, and has spent really a lifetime with working with kids. And she's got some pretty interesting things that she's accomplished, and I'm looking forward in the second part of our show to have her join us today.
Yeah, it should be a great time. Anytime we can add a guest to our show, it's going to always pick up and spark some interest and hopefully give some great idea to our parents.
And it's always good to add a pretty face to the screen when all they see is our mugs sometimes. So certainly adding someone else is great. I'm glad she's able to join us today. Well, Coach, NCAA leaders. Let's jump into our good friends with the NCAA. You know how much I love those guys and love to talk about them.
Yeah, it's been a busy week, and we've kind of talked in the past how we didn't think anything was going to be able to actually get done this year because of all the things that the House and the Senate have been going through with, oh, by the way, balance the budget. And, there's that little thing where they're trying to find ways to support wars in other countries. And there's, oh, yeah, we got these problems where people are being investigated. Yeah. And so this didn't seem to be like the number one priority for Congress. And so in the absence of that leadership, it goes back to the NCAA. And we've kind of talked ad nauseum about how the NCAA is just really been searching for anything. They've been holding town halls. They've been going to universities, trying to find ways to be able to come up with some ideas for some guardrails. Yeah. And it has been, in the absence of that, the rest of the association, the rest of the universities, and more importantly, the rest of the athletes have been moving on. They've been, out there, saying, hey, this is wide open. We can go here and get some money, and where we couldn't get it before, and there's no regulation really. Yeah. And so to that point, that little brief history lesson, we're here smack dab in the middle of December, and we still don't have anything, but we have some direction that has come from the home office, if you will. Our good friend Charlie Baker has kind of proposed a radical idea in some people's eyes to be able to change the shape and way that we have known the NCAA handling men's athletic football. And it is pretty I could see it coming. I mean, we saw the Power 5 conferences go to 4 in this next year with the they like to say realignment, but I mean, the whole Pac-12 just basically dissolved.
Yeah.
And so now you have Power 4 conference, and from that, there's still the haves and the have-nots.
Sure.
And that's the problem, is like everybody wants to play on the playground, but not everybody can get to the playground that wants to play, and they're screaming, hey, it's not fair. We're in a Power 4 conference and it's not fair. Florida State, great example.
Yeah.
They're in the ACC and they're saying, hey, there's no money here. We want to go somewhere else and go play. And they just can't get out of it. And so there's the haves and the have-nots. Well, what Charlie's saying is in this proposal is that there'll be a tier system, if you
Yeah.
will. So, of the 133 teams that are in the NCAA, what he's thinking is like there'll be a tier system of the haves and basically the have-nots. And in the haves, they're going to regulate money and how it's used. So the athletes will be paid by the universities in this system, and they're looking at that and saying, you know, we want this to come in house. However, they can't get away from the dirty little secret. They don't want the athletes to be employees, and there's just no way they can get away from it.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to find creative language where they say they're not, but they really are.
Yeah. Well, let me give you two dirty little secrets. Not only were they not excited about paying athletes as employees, but part two of that is they don't want to give up those revenue shares that they get from the TV rights and the TV advertising. And that's a big pot of gold, and that's starting to get looked at pretty closely. So, you know, I hear Charlie Baker talking, but my jaded view is going to come out, and I'm going to tell you, they're trying to control the narrative. They're trying to control the game plan here and control the money in a way that the kids that really do deserve it and should be getting their share of the monies are going to not get. It's not going to work to their benefit. I hate to be so cynical, Coach, but I just have watched these guys now, the NCAA and the commissioners, all and the universities. They have all been protecting their own butts, and it's kind of sickening at times. Candidly, I've been very frustrated to see that they don't pay attention to some of the things that truly benefit the students. Because where's that standardized contract for signature that could have been something they could have put it together a long time ago and had that available, even despite not getting Congress's attention.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking money and you're talking this kind of money, we're talking billions of dollars for TV contracts that are out there. You're seeing everybody go, hey, this is my part of the pie, and you're not going to touch it. And what they're finding out is, the athletes have been the ones that have been the performers, at the end of the day, and they've been overlooked. And they've said, hey, we've given you a scholarship and that's good enough. Do you have to take that or you don't get it? Well, that all changed when the ruling came in California a few years ago, and now those performers are getting compensated for it. And it is very scary for some of these institutions and these associations, because they're looking at this from, how am I going to protect? You said it earlier. How are you going to protect your butt? Kind of
Right?
thing. And it really is. It's one of those things where college athletics. There's not a lot of people, and I love lacrosse. I love watching it, but lacrosse is not filling the stands, not paying for professors that are on tenure. They're not paying for helping to set up endowments. A lot of that comes from the big sports. And when those monies start getting carved away, that's, all of a sudden these presidents of colleges and, these trustees are looking and saying, wait a minute, we had this cash flow and this cash flow is not the same anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Coach, I'd love to say they're going to figure it out and do the right thing, but I don't have that confidence. Well, and that
Yeah.
kind of jumps. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but the one of the thing the AP, article, kind of alluded to was, in addition to the tier system and, trying to meet the eligibility and that they're not being employees and all that stuff. One of the things that was just kind of buried in the article was talking about how they are going to, the NCAA on its own is going to purportedly put something out in January that these are going to be the guidelines that they work from. So, I mean, if that's true, if that indeed is true, then there could be a big shift come January, even without, any type of Congress or,
Yeah.
federal kind of guidelines. And that's huge because that's exposing the NCAA.
Yeah.
They're just saying this, we're all in, because if this doesn't work, we're not going to be here.
There you go.
At the end of the day, they're right. But the other part is, man, the liability that they're putting themselves into by making that move. If everybody's not in a buy-in, and not everybody's going to be in a buy-in situation, it's going to get messy,
Yeah.
really messy.
Well, they'll either find a way to make it work and to bring most of the big, they need the big universities, the big conferences to fall in line. If they can get the top 25% for the most part to kind of buy into what they're proposing, then the rest of the lower tier, the Division II schools, they'll all fall in line. The challenge is what the courts will say, and that's where the NCAA has just continued to suffer, because they have not stepped up from day one when the courts stepped in and said this has got to change. The NCAA went off running and screaming. They ran out. They said, well, we can't fight the courts. So they went and ran to their buddies in Congress and said, we need your help. Help us. And, Congress said, we don't want to get involved in that. Are you kidding me? Do you know it's an election year next year? Do you already see some of the craziness we've got going on here? So, and it's just like exactly what they were saying. Warning that they gave about permanent damage can be done if Congress doesn't get involved, right? Rolled your eyes. I saw you do it, Coach.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's stupid. The damage is the money's going away from
Yep.
their hands and
Yeah.
going to somebody else's hands, right?
Yeah.
That's the damage. Don't make it feel like these kids aren't able to go out and play football. Don't make it sound like, they're not getting a, world-class education. There's no damage there from this. The damage is coming from our money's going away.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it is.
And to your point,
and it's going to the
kids. And to your point, we're not worried about the kids. Is what it. But to your point is Congress isn't going to touch it, so it's going to be in the courts, and you know how expeditiously that will take. And if that's what we're waiting on, expect a few more years of this, craziness before there's any type of ruling or way forward for the athletes to be able to work in.
Well, when the courts get involved, they work. It's a very deliberate process, right? So there's edges that get shaped, and there's the way things get handled are done in a very timely manner for the courts, not for the fans or the universities or anyone else. But as far as the courts are concerned, they're going to build on precedents. And since there isn't precedents, they will make precedents. And so they will start establishing and kind of nipping and tucking and folding and shaping. And that's where this is all going to end up. And I think that's going to happen anyway. I just think the NCAA is so abdicated their role and their responsibility that I think the courts will eventually end up shutting them down. I just don't think Congress is going to be able to save them. Now, if you don't give me the moment, I want to say this. So their pitch, and I think this is just crazy, is the risk is permanent damage to an enterprise that has meant an awful lot to our country. Oh my gosh, let's put our hands over our hearts while we say this. And to those who have benefited from the experiences. Well, let me think. Who's benefited from the experiences? That would be the colleges and the broadcasters. Just so we're all clear, that's where all the money has gone to. So that is such a, it's a good thing I don't cuss, because I would right now.
Yeah, this is a first world problem. I do not imagine that
Yeah.
in other countries they are dealing with a recreational activity, sport,
Yeah.
and they're dealing with billions and billions of dollars that affect a fraction of the population
Right.
that I mean, there's many people that don't even know who, what, where about sport, and they're existing just fine.
Yeah.
Their lives are going on, and you know what? The majority of the country, this isn't their thing that they're going to bed worrying about.
No.
This is like, oh, they play football. That's great. But in the world of these people that have built this, that have built this castle on the sand, is starting to wash away a little bit, and they don't like it. They don't like it at all. And but here's the other part. A lot of people just don't care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say they play football, that's great. They say, well, they play football, but they don't. They've got the wrong name for what the right sport is. So there are a lot of
Yeah,
people that
yeah,
just
there you
don't
go.
understand what the U.S. is doing. Hey, give me a chance to read the second part of this quote because I think it's just as ridiculous as the first part. So Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, uh, he had his dire prediction if Congress didn't act. I mean, it's just like a bunch of little boys in a room that are all, worried about their toys getting taken away, which they should be. Um, so anyway, Greg says the risk we see states that further the risk we see states further build walls around their recruiting grounds. In other words, the states are building around their recruiting grounds, thinking that somehow provides a competitive advantage. The risk is that more and more young people sign agreements that they don't understand. Well, that doesn't change anything. That's still a problem. No matter where the money's going, that's still going to be a problem. Let's be clear about that. The risk is we move further and further from the academic nature of college sports. Oh my gosh, that ship sailed, 30 years ago? 30 years ago, that ship sailed. This is not academic in nature. Talk to these kids who are playing athletics, college athletics. It's a job. That's the problem. See, these guys, their whole counter argument is so horrible and so just unreal. It's not real life.
It really isn't. It really isn't. Last night I watched a volleyball match. Your Texas Longhorns were playing out west in the one of the super regionals, and they were playing against Tennessee. And
Oh
it
yeah.
was 11:30 at night when this match ended. Great
Wow.
match. The girls played incredible. Came back, won the fifth set. It was really cool.
Wow.
Here's what I'm going to ask. In right now, universities still in session? Aren't they still
Oh yeah.
going? Yeah, yes. The answer is yes. They're still going. They're still in semester. So the girls have been out there probably for 2 days. They're going to be there because they won through the weekend. So that's 4 or 5 days. Now, you want to tell me that their challenge is to be able to maintain their grades and to be professional. I'm sorry, to let that slip. Amateur athletes. And so
Amateurs. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And so they're amateur athletes, but 3/4 of their week they're in another city playing sport that's taking up, oh, by the way, quite a bit of time to
Yeah.
do. So to your point is like, are these professional academics, I didn't even say it right,
Yeah.
are they professional athletes? And they're athletes.
Yeah.
Athletes first, academics second. And for anybody to get up and say, "Oh, well, it's all about the school and everything else," man, I just challenge you to go to any Power Five athletic department
Mm-hmm.
and watch what happens. It is a business, and the business is building athletes, straight up building athletes to be the best that they can be so that they can go out and play individually or as a team and win championships. That's what they're building. They're
Yeah.
not necessarily over in the history department going, "Oh, tell us about the War of 1812."
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and this is going to continue to be a challenge, right? So, students and student athletes, the athlete portion of the role is always going to be a very pressure driven for these kids who are playing at these collegiate levels. And the tendency is going to be to let the sports take over on the academics. Having them being paid isn't going to change that. As a matter of fact, it could increase that pressure. I get it, and so that's back to some of the issues that we want the resources and the tools that are in place. That's where NCAA could help. But these guys have missed it. They're thinking about themselves still, and they are not addressing. They're not looking at the benefit for the kids. If the kids were truly at the center of this discussion, it would be how can we help a student athlete be every bit the athlete they need to be, and still give them the tools that they need to succeed. Now, big campuses do a pretty good job with it. But to your point, every college kid that I know right now that I've just happened to be talking to a few of them because of some things, scheduling things that we're doing down the road. It turns out they're all in the middle of midterms. They're all trying to figure out, getting these finals taken before heading off to their Christmas break. Well, how in the world could you go travel to Tennessee and think that that's part of the game plan? But, this is nothing new. The kids have been doing this for years. The sports have been there for years. And this is a program that just needs a little more. It it needs to reward kids up front because they are going to go through this pressure. It is not. They are not just students. There's the ability for these kids to have to play this dual role. That's always going to be a challenge.
yeah. At the end of the day, the model that football in college uses is when you compare it to like baseball or you compare it to basketball, there's another pathway, right? In those two sports, they go to the G League, they go to AAA, straight out of high school, they'll go in and they have that pay to play option. They may
Yeah,
start at the bottom and some nowhere team, but they have that option. And there's really not that in the NFL model that leads itself to this stuff, which the cascading effects of it. You can see where all these other sports go. Well, what about me? If you're going to do it for this person, why not do it for that person? And they're right. And so it's kind of pulled the bedspread back and shown everything that's in the bed, and it's not always pretty.
wow, Coach! I didn't know you were going to
Yeah,
go
I
there
know, right?
today.
It's an adult audience today. I'm
I love
sorry.
it. I love it. It's all good. Well, all right. Well, I don't know how to transition out of that very
No,
well.
you
As
can't.
to
You
say,
really
how about
can't.
we talk about Jeremy Gray, who's a Democrat in Alabama, who's got this legislation that he's trying to get passed in the state of Alabama. Our good friends.
Yeah, well, Alabama's been, for the past 5 or 6 months, just beating the drum, saying, "Hey, we're playing from behind," and
Nick Saban's
we
been hating life.
he has been. Well, it's because everybody else, right?
Yeah,
And so, but to that point, he Representative Gray said, "Look, Democrat Representative Gray said, hey, by the way, we want to play on the same field as everybody else. Well, to do
right.
that, he's proposed, NIL bill that would allow high school students to be able to benefit from their name, image, and likeness.
Sure.
And it's, you know, you have 30 states that are currently allowing that to happen. And with some of the other states that have academies, they're making, they're circumventing their state, leagues. Are like here in the state of Texas, UIL league is the one that kind of um, governs the high school association. Oh, by the way, they don't for the academies, and so the academies, they kind of slip through um, those cracks, if you will, and are
Mm-hmm.
able to help their athletes with NIL monies.
Yep.
But the other 30 states have allowed it, and now Alabama is seeing the difference where they used to be top of the mountain kind of thing, and they're still up there. Believe me,
Yeah.
they're still up there.
Yeah. They're not.
But
Don't cry for them too much
no,
yet.
no, no, you can't get rid of them. But the other part is that where they used to have three deep 5 stars, it doesn't look
Yeah.
like that now. And their ability,
They're down to two and a
when
half deep.
yeah, well, I mean, when one goes down, the next person doesn't look like that same person
Yeah.
anymore.
Not quite. Yeah.
And that person that was behind somebody is starting somewhere against them.
Yeah.
And for Alabama, they said, we see a need, fix a need. And it didn't take very long. 6 months in the grand scheme of this thing is not a long time, but it's they're going to have to be playing catch up with it. Texas is too. I mean, Texas doesn't even have something like this.
Well, yeah. So, in the state of Texas, they've got this whole voucher system that Governor Abbott's trying to push through, and he's trying to figure out a way to make parents happy and teachers happy through giving money, and it focuses and plays to a key constituency that he wants to, appeal to or at least court. And but he's really bumbled on it, candidly. But a 10,000, I think it's about $10,000 kind of voucher program that keeps getting shut down by the legislature. Both the Republicans and Democrats are shutting it down. But think of it this way. I mean, you take $10,000 per student and let them go off to whatever school they want to go off to, and then you try to add NIL money on it, and boy, you're kind of starting to have some pretty interesting high school players that have kind of some interesting dollars to go spend, depending upon how this kind of works out. Now, we know NIL for high school students in Texas hadn't happened yet. Really hadn't been much of a discussion. It doesn't look like they're bringing it on the table at all. But the pressure is going to be there. I mean, Saban was, trying to stem the flow. He's putting all his fingers in the dikes, right, or in the cracks in the dike, and he's suffering. He knows he's starting to lose, and he's starting to watch these kids go away and go play at other programs. And Texas is going to have that same challenge. We've recruited heavily. We got 3 quarterbacks. 2 of them are absolutely essential in this program. But the third one is going to be kind of quality. You put them out on the field, and other teams get very interested in them. So don't think for a moment that we're not going to see that same kind of pressure on a lot of the teams. Matt Rule kind of went to it pretty directly. You got to have the money. You got to be able to pay $1 million to $2 million for a really good quarterback. Or guess what? He's not going to sit on the second string bench. And if you want to pay him to sit, then that's your business. There's several of those quarterbacks who will still go away, but they're not going away without a good check being written. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's at least 10 Division I quarterbacks in the portal right now.
Yeah.
And
Ohio State.
Ohio State, Washington State,
Yeah.
Oregon State, they're out there. They're Duke quarterback. There's a number. I mean, just pick up and read and see who they are. But the point is, in years gone by, they would never leave that safety of what they had, because we'll take your scholarship away if you leave, kind of stuff. Or you can't transfer to another school. You have to sit out 2 years before you do that. That's just not fair. That's all gone now, man. And so if you're sitting at a school and your school didn't recruit you when you were in your school, they're looking Ohio State right now is probably looking all over the place and calling and saying,
Oh
"Hey,
yeah,
look," they are. They're reaching out and saying, "Hey, wherever, we've got a bag full of money.
right.
We'll surround you with, the best receivers, the best line in the world. You've been playing
Yeah.
at a school that's okay.
Yeah, we
Come
saw
play
you
with
down
us.
at UTSA, and
Yeah,
let me think, you could
yeah,
really make some money up here.
yeah. Come up here, and
Yeah,
you're going to win a national championship. And oh,
yeah,
by the way, you're going to get paid."
yeah,
That's where we are now, and it's
yeah,
like those guys are going, well, I can finish my scholarship at Ohio State
yeah.
as opposed to someplace else.
Well, okay. Well, do you think that they'll go ahead and mention the Venmo opportunity?
Well, that's a awesome. I mean, that's just like spitting in the face of everything. But
Uh,
that's a great article. A great segue for an article that came out with a former college football assistant. He has a wild NIL idea about Venmoing on the big screens during the
Bush.
game. So
His name is
yes,
Bush, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and so his idea is that they have your QR codes up on the big screen, and right after somebody makes a great play, boom, you can donate to it.
Send him money.
Holy cow!
That was a great
Send
hit.
money.
Let's send him $100.
Can you imagine being on the sidelines and
Uh,
like, all right, I'm going to come off the sidelines and hit somebody. I know I'm going to get lit up with getting kicked out of the game, but somebody's going to go, I'll pay $500 to see him,
oh my
light
gosh.
somebody up. And it's like,
Oh,
my gosh, how crazy is that?
that is such a bad idea. That is such a bad idea. And it's the alums, right? It's those stupid, crazy alums who want to break the rules anyway. And they've got more money than common sense, and they're, just funneling money into these different things. And they're the guys that are, half baked watching the college game and said, "Oh my gosh, we got to put $1,000 in his scholarship fund." Oh, that's the craziness. That won't pass. That's not going to happen. And then it's
But you can just see the guys that are playing Madden at home. They're sitting there going, man, this is the same thing. I had an opportunity to control my athlete on the field of play. And really,
yeah,
you do.
yeah,
You do. These guys are performing. It's like, if I can make $10,000 for whatever on a field, they're going to do it. It's like, that wasn't part of the play. Yeah, but I got paid.
yeah. Well, the whole bounty kind of concept, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
bounty, right?
yeah, man. If I can take that quarterback out, I bet I get a nice paycheck this week. Yeah,
You got to get 15 yards or $15,000.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, there's
what a
another
bad
side.
idea.
Yeah.
What a bad idea.
Very bad. Very bad.
You've seen prices rise from the dinner table to the pump, but Allstate agents are seeing ways to save you money on insurance. From starting a new policy to bundling coverage or even driving safely, Allstate agents know how to maximize your savings. They'll share their knowledge as they help you personalize your coverage. Because when it comes to seeing all the ways to save, Allstate agents do it best.
Mike Hammer has over 35 years as an Austin area Allstate agent. Call 512-343-6994 or visit MikeHammer@allstate.com.
Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This is the Parent Portal Show.